Oh man, I'd love to cross the ocean on a ship like this.
Ash, Misty, Brock, Jesse, and James. May these flowers honor your memory.
Since my last Pokemon video was both popular and fun to make, I decided to make it a series. That Time on Pokemon, where I talk about strange episodes of the Pokemon anime. Today I will be talking about not one, but 3 episodes, as this is a 3-parter. The episodes are Battle Aboard the St. Anne, Pokemon Shipwreck, and the Island of Giant Pokemon. All kinds of weird shit happens in these episodes, so let's jump right into it. The first episode starts with Ash and a gang in Vermilion City. They see the St. Anne, a famous cruise ship they'd like to go on, but lament they are too poor to do so. Before we get into this, I would like to point out the shipping game is called the SS Anne, not the St. Anne. Hashtag Jesus is a Pokemon theory confirmed. Jesse and James show up in disguise with free tickets for the St. Anne and give them to our heroes. Team Rocket then makes a Skype call with Giovanni, who tells Jesse and James they suck and that he has filled the St. Anne with Team Rocket members to ambush and steal the Pokemon from the passengers. Side note, I'm disappointed that Giovanni has a generic bad guy voice instead of sounding like Joe Pesci or Mario.
So the team is all there.
Mamma mia, you got to get the Pokemon.
After getting on the ship and seeing many Pokemon fans and guests, Ash sees a plantation owner battling a Starmie and decides to battle him after the Starmie loses.
Raticate, Super Fang Attack!
Ash is kicking the plantation owner's ass with Butterfree, and much like the Confederacy, he forfeits. James is looking at the different shops on the ship before their plan to steal the Pokemon activates, and he ends up getting involved in a Magikarp pyramid scheme.
You and me, this Magikarp is like a Pokemon gold mine.
Gold mine?
Right, a Magikarp lays 1,000 eggs at a time. Each of those 1,000 baby Magikarp lay 1,000 more. 1,000 times 1,000 makes 1 million.
Later, Ash and the gang are eating chicken and lobsters, once again animal in the Pokemon universe. The plantation owner from before approaches Ash and asks him if he wants to trade his Butterfree for Raticate. For some reason, the dialogue here is structured like a couple asking if someone wants to have a threesome.
What did you think of my Raticate? In that case, I'll be direct. Why don't we trade? When 2 people find that they each like the other's Pokemon, they trade. It's quite a common practice everywhere. You see, friends who trade then trade with their other friends, and so friendships grow deeper and continue to spread wider and wider.
Ash decides to trade with Countryman, but immediately regrets it and stares off sadly into the ocean, regretting that he gave up his good friend Butterfree. Meanwhile, James explains his multi-level marketing scheme to Jesse and Meowth, who roast him. James wants to go back and get a refund for his multi-level marketing scheme, but unlucky for him, the Team Rocket goons reveal themselves and begin stealing Pokemon, so James has to join in, of course. Then Ash decides to do something I wish you could do in all of the games. He starts having his Pokemon attack people. The trainers fucking wreck Team Rocket. Everyone sends out a similar Pokemon of the same type. Ash joins in and just fucking demolishes Team Rocket. There's a gang of Pikachus using electroshock therapy. There's a gang of a bunch of different Pokemon just fucking up Team Rocket. But then there's a gang of Butterfree dropping Agent Orange on Team Rocket. And Ash sends out a Pokeball expecting Butterfree to come out, but it's a shitty Raticate. That's when he realizes he needs to go back to the plantation owner and ask for his Butterfree back. Ash approaches the plantation owner, who agrees to trade back. Meanwhile, while this is going on, a rogue wave hits the ship and causes it to start to capsize and sink. Ash wants to finish the trade with the gentleman before getting onto the lifeboat for some reason. Also, for some reason, they have to use the trading machine that you use in the video games. I don't know why they can't just hand the ball to each other. After completing the trade, Ash drops the Pokeball like a clumsy bitch and runs after it, followed by Brock and Misty. Presumably, the plantation owner notices this and decides to leave 2 10-year-olds to a watery grave. Meanwhile, elsewhere, James drops a Pokeball and his friends chase after it as well. Both events cause the main characters to be trapped on the ship and knocked out as it capsizes. End of the episode. The next episode begins with Officer Jenny and presumably members of the Navy or Coast Guard having a funeral for the gang, as well as Jesse and James. Also, like, they could send water Pokemon to check the ship for bodies, and with how much weird shit and advanced technology is in the Pokemon universe, it's not impossible to think that someone could survive a shipwreck using the abilities of their Pokemon or some sort of weird technology. Did Officer Jenny alert their next of kin? Does Ash's mom and Professor Oak think Ash is dead? Brock and Misty also have large families and are affiliated with the Pokemon League. Was there an official league funeral for them? Of course, none of these questions are ever answered, and them being presumed dead is never addressed again. Anyway, Ash and the gang wake up and quickly realize by the non-Pokemon fish outside that they are in a sunk ship that is also turned upside down. Meanwhile, Jesse and James also wake up and are briefly on fire because of a nearby stove. Meowth explains that they are underwater because the ship has sunk in a super smug way, like a dick for some reason. Like, dude, you're trapped down here.
I'm afraid it won't be so easy to get off while the ship's underwater.
Here too. Jessie has her Ekans burn a hole in the ship using acid like a dumbass, causing water to flow inside. Meanwhile, the gang realizes that the top or bottom of the ship, because the ship is upside down, is flooded with water, and their best bet is to dive down through the flooded passages and escape through the top deck. Ash gets a horrifying vision of himself drowning, but then Misty says how she'll send her Goldeen down to scout through the pathways to find a good route so they don't drown. Goldeen scouts and discovers all of the pathways to the above deck are blocked off, as well as the near-drowned bodies of Team Rocket. Goldeen recovers Team Rocket. Team Rocket and the gang fight for a bit before Misty points out how fucking stupid it is since they're all at the bottom of the ocean and are gonna drown unless they get out of there soon. All of our characters decide their best bet now is to try to reach their way to the top and have Charmander burn a hole in the bottom hole and try to swim up to the surface for dear life. The characters encounter some obstacles, but they overcome them with the use of their Pokemon and eventually make their way to the top/bottom of the ship so they can burn a hole into it. Misty says how their only shot is to grab onto a water Pokemon for dear life and have them swim you to the surface. Team Rocket says they don't have a water Pokemon, but the gang doesn't give a shit and leaves them to die. James realizes he still has Magikarp and tells it to save all of them, only to realize Magikarp can't swim. The gang surfaces and finds a convenient raft-shaped piece of debris, and they board it. Team Rocket never surfaces, and the gang assumes they are dead. Ash sends Pidgeotto out to find dry land, which Brock says is like the tale of Noah's Ark from the Bible. Hashtag Jesus is a Pokemon. Pidgeotto finds Team Rocket and brings them back. For some reason, the gang immediately assumes they're dead without checking for a pulse, says a quick prayer, and is about to toss them overboard before they wake up. A day passes and hunger is beginning to set in. Everyone starts to fantasize about eating Magikarp, and Meowth takes the first bite, chipping his tooth. Misty objects to eating Magikarp, of course. Not because he's a Pokemon, but because Magikarp have no meat and are all scales and bones. James, enraged Magikarp is useless, throws it off the boat, leaving it to drown. You'd expect our heroes to try to save it or something, but no. They don't give a shit. Magikarp evolves into a pissed-off Gyarados and starts to attack the ship. It calls more Gyarados, and uses what Misty refers to as its ultimate move, Dragon Rage, which is funny since Dragon Rage is a terrible move. The gang and Team Rocket are blown away in a hurricane formed by the pissed-off Gyarados. End of episode. At the start of the next episode, Ash and the gang wake up on an island, with Team Rocket waking up on a different part of the island. Both Ash and Team Rocket realize their Pokemon are missing. Elsewhere, Pikachu releases Ash's Pokemon. We get subtitled dialogue between them as they search for Ash. Squirtle suggests Ash was eaten by a wild Pokemon, while Bulbasaur thinks Ash abandoned them. Dark. Jesse and James encounter a random payphone just on the beach, chillin', but relent that they have no money. Meanwhile, night falls, and all three parties decide to find a place to sleep. During the night, Meowth and Team Rocket's Pokemon see Ash's Pokemon. Meowth wants to attack them, but Ekans and Coffin are like, No. Meowth attacks them on his own, and we get this great shot of Ekans drinking tea with coughing that should be immune. This episode is incredibly repetitive and kind of bad, so I will explain it a lot faster than the others. Basically, this whole episode is cutting between the three POVs of Ash, Team Rocket, and the Pokemon. We see one group running from a giant Pokemon that's attacking them, then cut to another, repeat until the episode is over. There are some highlights though, like Team Rocket deciding to collect call Giovanni on the payphone, only for him to get mad and hang up because they decide to do their introduction for some reason. Anyway, there's about 15 minutes of people and Pokemon being chased by giant Pokemon from one place to another. There's a Moltres and Zapdos flying around chasing people, and then eventually Team Rocket finds a minecart. They try to use the minecart to escape the giant Kabutops chasing them, but the minecart goes to the Kabutops. A hanging cord from the minecart trips the Kabutops and drags it behind them. Ash and the gang are on the bridge and see a giant Pikachu. The giant Pikachu gets caught in a wire and dragged behind the minecart. The giant Pikachu crashes into the bridge, collapsing it, causing Ash and the gang to fall into the minecart along with Team Rocket. Then the Pokemon are being chased by a giant Pokemon and encounter the minecart, manage to run and jump into it. More and more giant Pokemon are getting dragged along by the wire. For some reason, there's a loop-de-loop on the minecart. Makes no sense. Then there's a big jump. The minecart flies off the track, crashes into the Zapdos, which turns out to be a robot, and then lands on the ground, destroying all the giant Pokemon, which also turn out to be robots. What? But wait, it gets dumber. There's a tour boat passing by the island who refers to this area as Pokemon Land. The tour guide notices all of the Pokemon are destroyed and makes a phone call to Giovanni, who's apparently the owner of Pokemon Land and has spent billions on it. What? Ash and the gang are randomly on a different part of the island and walk out of the jungle into the city, which is apparently on the same island somewhere. Trying to find logic in any of this gave me a stroke. Why do the giant robot Pokemon violently attack everything they see if they're a tourist attraction? How do they even have the same abilities of Pokemon in the first place? Why the fuck would Giovanni care so much about stealing Pokemon if he can make robot versions of giant Pokemon which are more powerful than any Pokemon, including legendaries? Who gives a shit about regular Pokemon if you can make a fucking robot Zapdos? Also, why is the island called Pokemon Land and not Giant Pokemon Land? The entire world is Pokemon Land. They live in a world full of Pokemon. It makes no sense. The best part about all of this is Ash and the gang never see the tour boat. They never find out that Giovanni owned Pokemon Land. Never find out that it was a tourist attraction. They just almost got killed by a bunch of 8-story robot Pokemon and then just went on and then just walked into a city, going on with their lives, going, wow, gee guys, that was weird. In a span of 72 hours, they won a cruise trip, went on the cruise, it sunk, were lost at sea for a day, almost died from starvation, then ended up on an island with giant robot Pokemon before continuing on like none of this happened. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my showcase of these 3 very strange episodes of Pokemon. If you have any strange episodes of Pokemon or other cartoons you'd like me to talk about, let me know in the comments below and maybe I'll do a video on it. Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe for more content or else I'll trap you on an island of giant robot Pokemon that will try to kill you for no reason. Bye bye!